Hey, what's up, guys? It is nice to be back in my room, and it is actually so much better than having these Q&As from being outside in the cold. It is like 20 degrees here in New York, and it is way too cold to do stuff outside. Um, I decided to stay home because it was snowing, the buses and trains were delayed, and so yeah, I didn't get a chance to record outside. So a little bit of a different scenery. Sometimes it's a good thing. Um, Honestly, I wasn't even like, I was thinking like, what should I have in my background? And I was like, okay, I guess I'll put code in the background. Um, so today we are looking at the question, let's see, someone started Android development and felt confused. Um, as they should. Android development can be a little confusing. I think all development can be confusing. But they started to doubt themselves and they asked, should I have started with React? So this is a common question, or should I have started with React Native? And this is a question that I feel I have asked myself. Exploring the different types of technology or the different frameworks, there's just so many things that are available for us to start. And it's kind of like, where do we even go from here, right? And um, kind of an extension of the last video, but obviously, like I said this a few times in the past two videos, but obviously, like, should you start in a specific like piece of technology? Depends on what you're trying to make, right? So obviously, like, if you're trying to do web development and you go into Android development, it's very clear that you should be learning React instead. But I think I've already answered that quite a few times. And so the thing that I want to talk about more so is the idea of kind of switching or transitioning in between different types of technologies. It can be good to learn a bunch of different languages, a bunch of different tech stacks, and it makes you more versatile, kind of just makes you like a jack of all trades, kind of. You might explain to yourself that you might be like something of like a full stack developer, but honestly, sometimes it can hurt to switch so much because you're not diving into the specific problems of each tech stack. And it's like a catch-22. Like you don't want to like focus on problems that you don't necessarily need, but it's important to go at least a little bit into these problems so that you can get a feel for how you're supposed to tackle problems within software engineering and how you can just build resilience against having to deal with bugs or issues or having to research things when you don't know what's wrong. And so this all encapsulates into like the 80-20 rule, which is something that I learned from talking with other software engineers as well as my friends. And it's essentially that 80%, if you find something that you like, let's say like you need something for your web page, like you need a navigation bar, and you find, I mean, obviously you'll be able to find things that are pretty customizable, but let's say that you find an API or code that does 80% of what you want. The 80-20 rule says just as long as you have 80% of mostly of what you want, ignore the 20%. That 20% is usually what convinces me to go into a different tech stack. When I was first starting out, I thought, oh, well, like Python is very versatile, so I'll just like use Python for everything. But then when I got into web development, I was like, oh, well, like Python doesn't really apply, so I guess I'll learn like the whole like web stack. And the truth is, like, if you really wanted to, you could probably find like some Python libraries that allows you to build web applications. It would probably feel pretty bad. Again, I've never like done this on Python, so I don't know. Maybe there is a robust way to do this, but just like with my knowledge or my perspective, I feel like Python was not meant for web development, and you should probably stick to like JavaScript and stuff. But because I'm switching contexts, I don't even apply the 80-20 rule. I'm kind of just like, okay, I'm not even gonna look at the 80% of like what Python has to offer. I'm just going like, there's 20% that I need, and that 20% is in JavaScript. And I'm sure that because it has the 20%, it'll have the 20% plus the 80%. And I don't think I've ever had that situation where I found like the perfect library or the perfect API that would help me in a project that I was doing. And lots of times doing the 80-20 rule allowed me to continue moving forward in my project. The app that I'm making now, there are like multiple, because I'm doing a project that has a longer lifespan, I've been coming across a lot of instances where I've had to apply the 80-20 rule because one, there isn't much support for Flutter, and so at least in the tech community, like if you go on Stack Overflow or you're trying to search up specific questions, you don't really find anything. And two, because I'm diving into a project that's a little bit longer, or like it has a longer lifespan, there are more decisions to make, and there are more often times where I'm just not going to find what I perfectly need because the project is getting more complex. There are things that aren't going to be perfect unless I custom build it. And then you have to debate, do I want to spend 2-3 months of runtime in order to make this perfect API, or do I want to just take something that has already been built by another developer and just be okay with the 80% of it, and missing some of that 20% functionality. So I feel like I didn't really answer the question, or the main part of the question, but should you start React Native? Sure. I think there's a lot of applications, there's a lot of fun projects, and anything with web frameworks is always super, super fun. So yeah, I say start it, see how you like it, and when you come across something where you want to do something and 80% of it is in React Native and 20% of it is in a different framework or a different API, try to find a workaround. Try to implement it maybe at first, and then see where that takes you. But yeah, hopefully those two things combined allows you to start React Native and then allows you to navigate through it. Last video, I talked a little bit briefly about it, but somebody asked about tips on how to stay focused and prioritize. The software engineering journey, it can be very hard to stay focused when you're doing leak code every day, you're studying data structures and algorithms, and you're just like rinse and repeating. So what are my tips on staying focused? So the first tip that I wanted to give is try your best every day and understand that your best is different every day. So what I mean by that is most people believe that being consistent means that you're supposed to give 110% effort every single day. And to be honest, motivation is almost like any other emotion. I don't know if motivation is an emotion, but it works pretty similarly where like it comes and goes, right? Like you're not gonna be happy all the time, you're not gonna be sad all the time, and in the same way, you're not going to be motivated all the time. So it's important to understand that your motivation on a specific day and how much you can do each day is different. So if you can only do 2 leak code problems and you usually do 5, like that's okay. It's okay to do 2 leak code problems. The important thing is that you're showing up every day. The important thing is that you're trying every day. And that's what it means to be consistent. So that's my first tip for staying focused and prioritizing things. It helps with prioritizing because by doing something every day, regardless of the intensity of it, it shows that you're deciding that this is important enough that you're doing it every single day, or at least like whatever your cadence is, whatever your frequency is. And the way it helps you for staying focused is because 9 times out of 10, when you open up something like outside of like tabs or YouTube or whatever, you will just have it on your screen and it'll make you more inclined to do it. So if every day your goal is to just open up your tab to leak code, like there's gonna be a higher chance that you're gonna just look at it and be like, oh, like let me just look through the leak code list, or let me just open up my project folder and like let me open up my my VS Code and see if I'm gonna see if I want to work on it. And just having on your screen, having something that isn't something that would make you procrastinate is going to help you. Like it's just going to make you feel like after this I might like turn around and be like, all right, I'm gonna go back to my computer and be like, oh, well, I already have my code open, so I guess I might like work on some code, you know? That is my first tip. The second tip is something that I got from a book called Atomic Habits. I don't know if I have it. There's a giant stack of books like below me, but I forgot who the author is, but search up Atomic Habits. There's a lot of things to learn from that book, but there's a concept called habit stacking. And the idea is you can kind of like get into a rhythm and make motivation a little bit easier when you repeat certain things, like repeat actions in a way where like one comes after the other. So, you know, you'll always want to for example, right now, like you'll always wait until the end of the workday or until you're done with school, and you'll be happy about it because you know that it means that it's time to relax, or it's time to play video games, or it's time to hang out with your friends. So that's that's in the barest forms like habit stacking. Like you're putting two habits together and they become correlated, or they relate to each other. So my second tip is to create don't just like focus on the one habit. So if your goal is like to study lead code or to do like comp sci projects every single day, then mix it in with something that you enjoy. So do something like, okay, like I'll only play video games as a reward if I do this piece of if I work a little bit on my coding project, or I work on lead code. And don't make it like something insane that just makes it really hard for you to complete that goal in order to play games, because then you'll start to relate like a negative correlation. So if your goal is like, okay, I'm gonna do like 20, like I have to do 20 lead code problems to do the thing that I really love, it's just gonna feel like you're just gonna hate the lead code problems because you'll just see it as an obstacle towards what you like doing. So it should be something a little bit lighter, like, okay, like if I open up lead code and put it on my other screen while I play video games, then, or if I put it on my second screen, I get to play video games. And it won't necessarily get you to stop playing video games or to start doing lead code, but it'll bring the idea to the forefront of your mind. It'll literally be like on your second monitor, and even if you want to avoid it or you don't want to do it, it's going to be in front of you. And that is like one of the most important things, or yeah, it's just one of the most important things when it comes to like being consistent or focusing, right? Like the idea is you're focusing on things, you're whatever is in front of your eyes is what you're going to focus on. And obviously you can focus on things mentally and you can like visualize it in your head, but at the end of the day, you're going to just focus on the visual cues that you have in front of you. So keep things that you want to do in front of you. Don't put it in the background, don't minimize it. Put yourself in the, that's the third tip I would say, like put yourself in an environment that you're going to focus. Like this thing, like it distracts you. Obviously I'm working on an app that will make it a little bit easier for you guys to not be distracted. But those little things will just have you focus on something else. What I like to do is I like to take this phone and I just like to like throw it somewhere, give it to someone, put it in a different room. If you're really trying to focus on something, just get it out of there. I'm not saying that you don't have self-control or self-restraint. It is just more of the concept of having it out of sight, out of mind, in the same way that sometimes you don't work on your projects because it's out of sight, out of mind. Like you haven't opened the folder, you haven't opened your IDE, you haven't opened anything, or even opened a tab to start tackling your problem. But setting up an environment in a way that helps you is something that'll help you focus more. And for the people like me who grew up in a house where it was really hard to focus just because like it was loud. Um, Sometimes there was no like privacy, or sometimes it was just really hard to focus. There's libraries everywhere. If there's not a library, then cafe, coffee shops, there's a bunch of places. Um, and if you don't have the ability to go to one of these different places, um, headphones, headsets. There's a bunch of different ways to tackle this, but the idea is to set up your environment in a way that you could focus. The next video is going to be super exciting. I started screenshotting people's like questions and messages. So people are going to start getting shout outs, and also I get to answer more of your questions. Hopefully you guys like this format. I just felt like I didn't really know what the best way to provide value for you guys were. Like obviously I stream, and I also like did that thing for like 2 weeks where I just like showed you guys like that I was like coding like every other day or so. And I felt like the idea of it obviously was to just kind of push you guys to be like, hey, like I'm coding too, you guys can code as well. I know that you guys want more. Like I definitely get a lot of requests to like stream more, but it's difficult with having a full-time job. But yeah, if you guys want to support me, or you guys want to speed up just pushing me towards being more visible, more like posting more content, then feel free to subscribe, feel free to ask me more questions, and let me know what you guys think um, about everything. But yeah, subscribe, that's all I'm asking for. And I'll see you guys in the next video.